Well, good Thursday morning to you. Welcome to Lettermen Row, HQ in a little bit overcast Columbus. It's almost like the weather has reflected the mood of the football program here. If somehow you missed it, I'm Austin Ward. This is Beanie Wells and Jake Stoneburner, two Ohio State Lettermen. So they are going to be much more knowledgeable about what all this might mean for the program than me, but I can give you some of the news after what happened yesterday. As you all well know, I'm sure that Urban Meyer is now on paid administrative leave. For what happened or what may not have happened. There are a lot of things we don't know. As I've written over the last 24 hours a bunch of times, we don't know all of the details, all of the facts that happened. But right now he is on paid administrative leave. Ryan Day is the acting head coach for the Ohio State Buckeyes because Ohio State right now is trying to find out exactly how much Urban Meyer may have known, when he may have known it, what steps he maybe should have taken or should not have taken, depending on if he knew the information with Zach Smith's multiple allegations of domestic abuse. And I'll just throw this out to you, Beanie and Jake. You guys can take your turn here, and then we'll try to take as many questions from you guys if you have them. Shoot them to us on Twitter or Facebook or in the comments, whatever. We'll have Will and Nick in the background here try and pass along those questions for Beanie and Jake to answer. But Beanie, just your initial reaction to what happened yesterday and I don't know what this means for Ohio State moving forward.
It's tough. Obviously, you never want anything like this to happen at your alma mater. But this is a situation that, something had to happen once all this information came out. There are a couple of high alert situations that are going on in the country right now, and domestic violence and how we treat women are one of them. And it's something, obviously, you have to take serious. And when you're at a program like Ohio State, these allegations come out, you have to address them head on immediately. You have to cut the head off the snake as soon as you see it, or else it might come back and bite you.
Yeah. Jake, your first thoughts yesterday?
Wild day. I feel like I've seen this play out before. Maybe not to this level. Experiencing Coach Tressel go through something similar. It's just brings back a lot of memories of a lot of unknown. What's going to happen? What's the state of Ohio State right now? What are they going to do going forward? The season starts in a month. That and Coach Meyer. There's a lot of questions and what's going on. A lot of answers we don't know. So there's a lot of speculation, a lot of assumptions. But like Beanie said, at the end of the day, when something like that comes out, Ohio State had to make a swift move. And, for right now, for him being paid administrative leave, they can figure out, get the details, and, truly get to the bottom of what happened over the past few years.
I think this is one of the real benefits to you guys being part of Lettermen Row, Jake, is that you have some insight into this that not a lot of people have. Now, the timeline for Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer, very different. You had Memorial Day versus 2 days before training camp. What was that transition like for you as players, and what do you think that this might be like for 48 hours or so before the first practice for a team that is a college football playoff contender?
I mean, I'll never forget. They called us on Memorial Day. We're supposed to be off, and like, hey, we gotta come in. We got a meeting. We're like, a meeting? We're supposed to be off. What's going on? Walk in. There were only probably 12 people showed up because everyone was on vacation. And Coach Tress walks in. He was like, "Man, guys, I gotta retire. I'm resigning."
Yeah.
And the mood in that room was just like, oh my. And I can only imagine what they're going through right now, especially with training camp right around the corner. I'm sure they have all the confidence in the world in Coach Day. They probably love him as a coach. They're gonna, work hard for him.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Urban was their leader. That was the guy they were there for. So hearing something like that right before camp, I'm sure they're focused on football, but a lot of chirping in the air about what's going to happen with their head coach.
Yeah.
It's it's going to be tough to focus on football for a little bit. Something's going to have to get settled so they can go forward with the season and see what happens.
Beanie, we were talking before we went on the air here, and I think there are a lot of different camps, a lot of people thinking that Urban Meyer has a path back, some people that think he should not be able to return based on some of the things you mentioned about the new age proper thinking about the way to treat women, I should say, not some sort of new thing, but it is the movement to make sure. I'm just curious what you think the outcome is, and I've said it a lot of times. I may be putting you too much on the spot here, but what do you think it should be, could be? I don't know what your thinking is on it right now.
It's tough. Obviously, you as a fan of the program, as an alum of the program, you look at what somebody means to the organization in terms of a win-loss, because that's what it's about a lot of the time. But I think right now, in the position that we sit in, this is bigger than football. You have to really dissect and understand what it is to be a human being in this situation and to have some type of morals and ethics in this situation. And, if things are found that Urban Meyer knew everything that was reported, And I think you have to make a change because that's the right thing to do. And I think Urban Meyer said it himself in an interview when talking about the basketball allegations with coaches. If you found lying, then you should never coach again. So those are his own words in situations that are similar to this one. So I just don't know that he has a route back if those things are true because, like I said earlier, we're in a tough time in this country where things shouldn't be tolerated, and domestic violence and having somebody on your staff that commits those acts is one of them.
What's interesting to me about this is I saw some people yesterday and this morning pointing just back to the Big Ten press conference at Media Day, what Urban Meyer said. Yeah, he lied to us, okay? I mean, I think we can all assume that. That's an accusation from me because I don't know exactly what he knew or what Shelley may or not have told him, what Zach may have not. I can't really say that definitively, but I feel like he wasn't entirely truthful. But that in itself, even though there is that clause in his contract, that's not necessarily a reason for him to be fired. What if he lied at Big Ten Media Days, but had told Gene Smith or told somebody else what he knew in 2015 and then felt this would blow over because there were no charges? I don't know what was said in those meetings at the administration. I don't know what was said with Zach Smith. I don't know what Shelley and Urban talk about when they're away from the field. I assume that this had come up. I don't know what Brian Voltolini or Lindsey Voltolini or anything. I wasn't there. I think there's a little bit of a rush to judgment in this stuff, and maybe it'll all come out that there is some sort of evidence at some point that links Urban directly to it. Maybe that will vindicate him. Maybe that's not enough. I don't know. It felt like through 2 or 3 hours passed yesterday, and people wanted to know what the decision was going to be. Mm-hmm. Why hasn't Ohio State made a statement? Why haven't they made a move? Well, think about that's just scratching the surface of things we don't know. Zach Smith's legal case is still ongoing. I believe he's scheduled to be in court tomorrow. His lawyer has passionately defended him on a lot of grounds that I don't even feel like I need to get into. That's not my place to judge that either. But there are all these facts that nobody knows at this point. And you've been in this situation too, Jake. People, want something to happen so quickly. I almost feel like this was the right step because of that you just let Urban Meyer go away for a little bit. Don't be in part of this investigation. Let Ohio State try to find out as much as they possibly can and then decide if there's a way forward. But it just was crazy to me, and it has been for the last several weeks. This isn't a situation that can magically be resolved in 2 or 3 hours or even one day, and I don't know how long it's going to go on.
You said it. You said it perfectly. I mean, yesterday, the amount of assumptions and things flying around were, just unreal. It's hard. We don't know the facts, like you said. There's statements out there that claim he might know something, right, or claim Courtney, or claim this, but at the end of the day, we just don't know. So I think Ohio State made the right call and put him on paid administrative leave. Let them do their due diligence, figure out what really happened before they make a drastic decision. Because Urban Meyer is Ohio State right now.
Yeah.
And, if something were to have happened where he did have knowledge, then they got to act on that. But they don't have that information, or maybe they do, and we haven't seen it as the media, as former alumni. We don't have that. We're not privy to that information right now. So we're just making assumptions, kind of a guessing game. But it all leads to something not very good at the end of the day, no matter what happens. Those type of outcomes, the way women should be treated, should never be treated like that. So at the end of the day, this isn't a good outcome, whether Coach Meyer's here or not. It's not the best situation.
All right. From a football perspective, I know that sometimes people, only want to focus on that. We've covered a lot about what this means for the coaching staff, but now Ryan Day is in charge. Either one of you guys, were you surprised at that choice yesterday? How do you feel about Ryan Day being the active head coach of the Buckeyes?
Initially I was surprised. Obviously, you have 2 former head coaches on that staff, and Greg Schiano and Kevin Wilson, that have shown to have some success as being a head coach. So I was initially shocked that they didn't choose one of those. But then after thinking about it a little bit more, looking at the baggage that those guys certainly bring to the table, especially what we have going on right now, I understand the move. I think Ryan Day is going to be a pretty good coach for us. I understand that these young guys are already set in the mentality of what Urban Meyer has created there at the Woody Hayes Athletic Facility. They're going to go out and compete at a high level. They want to go out and win. They know the expectations. And I think when you have a great coach like Urban Meyer, his assistant coaches, they know the expectations as well. So he'll be able to pick up right where Urban left off, I believe.
I thought it was kind of weird, Jake, and maybe you agree or disagree, that Schiano was in this position where they've made him, he's assistant head coach. They gave him $1 million, and he's basically the head coach of the defense. So you have 4 guys, you have coaching positions, and then Schiano kind of floating around. It felt to me like it was a natural thing, because now maybe you're moving Ryan Day and a first-year starting quarterback, and giving him this head coaching responsibility. I understand that he's the rising star and somebody that they don't want to lose in the future, but to me it just felt like the natural fit, the most seamless way forward was to make Greg Schiano the active head coach. But I don't know. What did you think when they made that choice, and does it make more sense to you than it does to me?
I'm with you. I mean, I guess after reading further into it and reading more about Ryan Day, it makes sense as the route they were trying to go. They felt like they had a lot of coordinators, maybe two head coaches on each side. Why not have a guy just come up and just be the head coach instead of Schiano and Coach Wilson?
Yeah,
obviously they've been head coaches, but they have a little tainted past, or past few years a little iffy. And I just felt like Ryan Day just seemed like the easy guy to come up, and maybe has a lot of potential down the road. As far as Coach Schiano, I think they just want him to run the defense. He's a great recruiter. And they probably, as far as a long-term situation, maybe didn't see him there, and they could potentially see Ryan Day taking over long-term. So maybe that's played a little bit into it. But obviously now you have 2 former head coaches run the offense, running the defense, and then you have a guy running the whole thing, trying just to keep Urban's, what Urban's teachings going for this year. And then, after that, we'll see.
What do you need to hear something from Urban Meyer, Beanie? If there's a way forward for Urban Meyer, does he have to say something? Does he have to make an apology, to you or the fans, or do you even care at this point?
If there's a way forward, you mean it's him being
yeah,
head coach, sticking around
yeah.
here. I think he has to come out and say something that eases the mind of everybody, that he had little to no knowledge of what transpired. I think that will probably do it. I mean, him saying that I don't know how he can still be around in that situation. I don't know how anybody can feel comfortable in that situation. It would have to be, I had very little knowledge of what was going on. I knew that the legal department was involved. I wanted to let those guys do their due diligence before I made a decision on what to do. And I contacted my superiors before I made that decision, like you mentioned earlier. That's the route for him to still be here at Ohio State. Anything else, I just can't see it personally.
Jake?
Right there with Beanie. I mean, he comes out and says he had any prior knowledge or knew about it, however many years back, I just don't see how he can stick around. Just so many different reasons as far as what could happen as far as media relations down the road, just the image of Ohio State. Who knows? But if he does come out and say, I had very little knowledge, I truly didn't know, I have facts to back that up, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Stay on board. We're with you, Coach Meyer. I mean, you're our coach. I mean, that's how it's got to be. And if there's facts to back up that he didn't know or had very little knowledge, and let the superiors, the police officers who take all control, let the family deal with it, and they said that, maybe there's a story behind that we're not hearing.
Yeah.
But, it's pointing towards, he might have known something, and that doesn't look good or bode well for Ohio State and Coach Meyer, in my opinion.
Will, did we get any questions out there for the guys from our Lettermen Row audience?
Let me see here.
This is the beauty of our first live attempt, ladies and gentlemen.
The main camera live stream went down, so we're off the iPhone.
Oh, okay. Nice. Oh, I'm looking in the wrong spot then.
Technology.
Hey, we have to do trial and error, so that we thought we'd be ready for September, ladies and gentlemen, but got moved up a little bit in August.
That's okay. Big news. We had to go live today.
Yeah, have to try it out.
Austin, what's your thought though? I mean, do you think that there's a way back for Urban Meyer? And if he does come out and says that I didn't know what happened, I mean, how do you think that goes?
Well, we've already seen with some recruits yesterday coming out and saying that there's negative recruiting going on against Ohio State, and now that will never stop for Ohio State. I'm not saying that you have to make that the be-all, end-all of your decision, but wherever you go on the road, if you're Urban Meyer, wherever you go to recruit, I mean, I'm not going to say any specific names, but there are coaches in the Big Ten that for sure were already saying, look, this guy kept someone accused of domestic abuse or alleged multiple abuser, however you want to phrase it, because they're going to make it sound, they don't need the facts at this point. They're going to say, this guy kept him on staff for 3 years. Mom, is that where you want to send your son? Son, is that the kind of guy that you want coaching you? And look, this is not, they don't need the court to decide that matter for them. That is now in their ammunition. That's never going to go away. The flip side, of course, is you're talking about one of the most relentless recruiters and one of the most successful coaches in college football history. Maybe that's enough to trump it. I mean, negative recruiting against Urban Meyer is not anything new, and that's not going to be the final determining factor. But I think that that's a stain. Secondarily, you have this issue with future recruits, and now you have to go back and work on your message with current discipline of your current team. How are you able to preach those core values the same way if it is alleged for a long time you knew that there was a violation going on your coaching staff, not amongst your players who have been instantly kicked off the team the second that they're abused and then have to work their way back and earn a scholarship back or earn their locker back or earn their gear back. We've seen that. Are you able to completely recapture that right away? So I think that those are two concerns that you have to address. Just purely, those are more on-field concerns. If all the other off-field stuff works out the way in favor of Urban Meyer. And Beanie, I don't know, excuse me, if it will or not, because there is so much uncertainty. And I think, a week ago, I thought the same thing. If Urban Meyer is standing up there and saying what he did at Big Ten Media Days over and over and pretty adamantly that he didn't know, and then it just so happens that the Powell Police Department corrects some of that record an hour later, Urban Meyer didn't know what he didn't know about Zach Smith, theoretically, hypothetically. And so Ohio State is in the same boat, both with Zach Smith and now with Urban Meyer. So there's so much information that has to come in, and everybody that's writing yesterday, which that did not happen here, that you have to make a move one way or the other on Wednesday when you find out, like, that's just not realistic. And this could go into the season. It could end tomorrow. I don't know. And I don't know what the outcomes will be, but I don't think that I don't know that any of them are positive for Ohio State. Whether you keep them or whether you don't. There are going to be negatives to both. And that's kind of the unfortunate situation. And whether that means Urban Meyer comes back this year, the end, I think, is much closer now, no matter what. You're not going to see him for the long haul the way that 5-year contract, he's not going to be living that out.
And 2 weeks ago, who would have thought we'd been talking about that?
Well, I think that's crazy too, Jake. I mean, the guy to end the Urban Meyer era is potentially Zach Smith, because you keep him, like, you know him much better than I do, but he's one of the lowest paid members of the staff. That had to be for a reason. He's the wide receivers coach, never got a promotion. That had to be for a reason. This is the one that you want to risk your $8 million on, your legacy as a 3-time national championship winning coach. To me, I have a hard time thinking that he would have knowingly risked everything that he's achieved and his entire future on this guy. That's what I struggle with that one.
Yeah, I mean, but Coach Meyer could be a really loyal guy. Obviously, you know who Zach Smith's grandpa is.
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt. And he might have not known the facts. He might have just not known. And I'm with you on that. It's kind of hard to think, if you had all those facts and you were sitting on them as a head coach, you would just not let it go, but brush it under the rug for. It would have been forever if it didn't come. If he wouldn't have got that criminal trespassing, that would just never have came up. We say 3 years now. I mean, it could have been 10 years down the road. You just never know if something would have came up. So obviously something was hidden a little bit, and it's just really tough to see. We can't even see it clearly, to be honest. Yeah, we just don't know.
I know it's weird to be in this fog. I mean, this weather is perfect almost today.
It's like they know.
Yeah,
it's like they know. There's just a fog sitting over Columbus right now, and
yeah, Columbus is definitely mourning today.
It is, man. And the crazier thing to really think about in this whole ordeal is, let's say Urban Meyer is fired. You can't go back and look at a coach at Ohio State that, as prestigious as a university as this is, that has walked out on their own terms. That's a wild thing to really sit there and digest.
Yeah, that's almost the way it has to be at a school this powerful, right? I mean, you either bring yourself down or you don't win enough. Like, I mean, right? Tress would have stayed forever. Urban would have stayed forever. Woody would have stayed forever, and then all these things, eventually had to trip them up to get them out, and that's just it's wild that the school is that way.
It is.
Two of the greatest coaches I've ever seen, Tressel and Coach Meyer, both at the end, maybe at the end of their careers, are a little tainted because of holding back the truth.
Yeah,
which is great because you just never would have thought that, especially a couple years ago with Urban when I was playing with Tress. You just don't think of that as Ohio State, and now we're almost 2 for 2 on those situations. Maybe having us fire our head coach, which is so unfortunate for somewhere like Ohio State. We have so much going for us right now: recruiting, winning. Just the university in general. Our head coach was the best in the country, and now it's who knows. They got training camp, and we're all sitting here talking about whether they're even going to have a head coach tomorrow or not.
Yeah, and if they're going to talk with the media, which they better, because I'm just going to put that pressure on from here right now. They're trying to weigh their options. Look, I think that shows a rudderless ship if you don't have your active head coach talking, if you don't have your veterans, if you don't have your coordinators who are making $1 million talk to the media tomorrow. You're trying to act. You put out the statement yesterday that you want it to be business as usual. You don't want Urban Meyer to be a distraction. Well,
it's not business as usual.
It's not if you change your schedule and if you don't let the players talk to the media, if you don't let us talk about actual football, the only thing we're going to do is come in here every day and ask when Urban Meyer's coming back or when he's going to be fired. Let's move on, Ohio State. Let's talk to the media tomorrow. Let's talk about football, and let's wrap up this segment with our first Lettermen Row Live. Beanie Wells, Jake Stoneburner, thanks for joining me this morning. We're going to have a lot more to talk about, hopefully a lot more football in the coming weeks ahead, and maybe we'll even make sure that our cameras all work for the whole time. We'll see how that works, and maybe that way it'll be easier for you guys to ask us some questions. So hopefully this added some information, maybe a little bit of entertainment for your morning. I know it's not a fun time to be an Ohio State fan if you're out there, really uncertain about the program, but I think both of these guys would say there's still a really solid foundation, and these Buckeyes could still go out and win a Big Ten national championship, even with Ryan Day and that group coming back. So that stuff hasn't changed, and we're going to break that down starting tomorrow when training camp resumes, and hopefully we'll have some media access to provide to you guys from that perspective. Thanks for joining me, guys, and we'll see you next time. I'm Austin Ward.